Teemo was notoriously one of League of Legends' most hated champions. Notice how I used the past tense, was. In today's league, the league where everyone has a dash and overloaded kits, Teemo has almost been forgotten, with one of the most lowest pick rates in the game. We can agree that Teemo is on the weak side when it comes to comparing to other champions. Riot could buff him, or maybe even his items, but he will become too strong. I firmly believe Teemo is a champion that will never have true balance when it comes to the majority consensus. Here is why I think Teemo will never be truly balanced. Quick disclaimer for this video. The intention behind this video is to analyze a champion's conditions and create a discussion on said champion. I am only analyzing the state of the champion with the intention to inform and entertain. This video is not made in any way to hate the champion or anyone that means it. If you do enjoy these type of league discussions along with thought-provoking videos, be sure to subscribe because I make these videos weekly, and like the video at the end if you did enjoy it. First things first, we need to understand Teemo's identity. Teemo is classed as a ranged top laner, along with other champions like Quinn and Vayne. Okay, let's retract the last one. The range category of top lane is often shunned upon by non-ranged top laners because they have a natural advantage in the early game. A natural advantage that technically has no counterplay. At level 1, when a melee and range walks up to lane, the melee champion naturally has to surrender in terms of sacrificing health for minions or waiting for minions to push. And this is because the ranged champion naturally has a longer auto attack range, which means they get in 3 auto attacks for free, allowing them to poke for free. Furthermore, if you are a tank like Maokai, you are at the mercy of the ranged top laner for a good few waves or even a few backs, since the ranged top laner has the chance to poke you for free, which means they win trades and can easily build up waves, negating the chance for you to trade back, because obviously if you try to trade into a big wave, they will automatically win the wave in the early game due to minion damage. So straight off the bat, Teemo is already classed in one of the most hated categories for top laners, and we haven't even talked about his kit. Teemo's kit was made to tilt the opposition to the highest degree. His E passive basically punishes every melee champion even more than the average range champions. This is because it applies extra damage on the end of every Teemo's auto attack. So melee champions who already feel like they are being punished for no reason by ranged champions are being punished even more when they are attempting basic necessities like CSing. His Q is arguably one of the most annoying abilities for any champions that relies on their auto attacks. He can basically negate any trade since he blinds you for a whole 1.5 to 2.5 seconds, making him immune to your auto attacks. And I'm sure we all have experienced this before, but when Teemo blinds you before you try to last hit a cannon and you miss it, that is so tilting. Moreover, late game, Teemo can build full AP and do crazy amount of damage with his Q, considering the AP ratio is 80%. So as a Teemo, you can blind people, basically negating their whole kit like ADC players, and you can do a crazy amount of damage if you hit a squishy champion. His W is not as strong as it used to be in today's league. Before, it used to provide enough move speed to make Teemo very slippery. And then we move to his ult, which to this day still frustrates me. Walking into a mine of shrooms, especially in the late game, and losing all your health while simultaneously being perma-slowed, it leads to a feeling of helplessness. And that's what I want to elaborate on. Teemo leaves the illusion that there is no counterplay. Now before any Teemo main dislikes the video and leaves a hate comment, don't forget the word illusion. I'm going to quote prominent physician Edward D. Bono again from last video, since it applies perfectly in this scenario. Perception is real even when it's not a reality. Yes, there may be clear counters to Teemo. For example, you could buy a sweeper to avoid his shrooms. You can play passive in the early game and outscale him with a mobility item such as Stride Breaker. Or if you are a tank, you can build resistances in the mid game and naturally beam in 1v1s. Whenever Teemo blinds you, you can just avoid fighting him and go back in when the blind is down. But for the average player in the average elo or a normals game player, they don't want to go through loopholes just to fight Teemo. They want to jump in and make a trade without thinking about Teemo's blind. They don't want to waste time to swap to a sweeper and always be sweeping wherever they go. They don't want to play super passive in the laning phase with just the hope to outscale, especially when the Teemo is constantly poking them out without them being able to do anything. Moreover, they might not even know how to play laning phase without getting poked out. The perception of an average player sees Teemo as a nuisance with little counterplay. And even veteran players still remember how annoying Teemo was before season 11. Just to confirm my hypothesis, I did a quick survey on my channel asking if anyone liked Teemo, and the vast majority did not. Yes, it was a super small sample size, so I can't come up with a conclusion just based on this, but even looking at stat sites like u.gg, Teemo is ranked S+ tier in Iron, bronze and silver, just because he is so effective at winning lane against the majority of the player base. Furthermore, hating Teemo has become a culture in the League of Legends community. Even though Teemo might not be the most annoying champion currently to face, we have been hating Teemo so much for so long in the community, it's been indoctrinated within the League society. This means that Teemo is by default born into hatred, and the public shuns this champion. So what does this mean for Teemo in terms of balancing? Well, balancing partly relies on the community's morale, and since Teemo already has negative connotations tied to him, slight buffs in stats like AD damage or AP ratios would amplify that hate we have on Teemo. For example, the shrooms do more damage, an ability no one likes, his E and Q does more damage, more abilities that feel like there's no counterplay according to the public, would just make Teemo more and more annoying. This would lead into mass complaints, and Riot has to comply with mass complaints to keep the player base happy, so what they will have to do is gut the champion. In addition, his win rate in low elo would skyrocket, further bringing in more hate with the no counterplay narrative. This is why I think his win rate has to be low or high, there's no in between when it comes to Teemo. And it's almost sad because it's not Teemo's fault, but the public naturally has a bad perception on this champion. So, what can be done to Teemo to help him out? One change that I guarantee will happen and will greatly help him is the meta changing. Currently the meta is high mobility carries or bruisers with high DPS. Split pushers are not that important since there's constant fighting around the map. Teemo is strongest when setting up shrooms and applying side lane pressure. He thrives off of poor coordination. Now with the high mobility and damage, teamfights happen and end too quick for Teemo to do anything. By the time Teemo sets up a side lane push or have shrooms set up, people have engaged and the teamfight is already done. Furthermore, Teemo is also not good into high mobility champs. Currently this season, due to new items, everyone basically has high mobility. Stridebreaker is one of the main culprits as it stops Teemo from doing what he does best, constantly kiting and always being one step up the enemy, quite literally. Stridebreaker gap closes into Teemo and slows him, which basically completely negates the point of Teemo. What they could also do to directly buff Teemo is increase his mobility from his W. They could buff his W by giving extra movement speed or maybe even reducing the cooldown, which they already did a few months back, which evidently isn't enough if you look at win rates, since like I already explained, Teemo does struggle in the mobility aspect this season. I don't agree on any damage buffs or ratio changes. Teemo's kit is just too toxic to begin with. He's already annoying, so amplifying the frustration by increasing his damage will just lead to public outcry. A mobility buff incentivizes a skill flow, as good players will know when to capitalize on movement speed to create plays. Riot could also buff mage items, but that's a whole different can of worms. A basic TLDR to that solution is, it may destroy the current league's ecosystem and economy as we know it. You could also rework him, but many Teemo mains detest to this. The Teemo community has a die-hard fan base, and they would rather stick with the state of the champion than have him reworked. I know this is generalizing, but from what I read, many people in the community don't want a rework. However, many do want a rework. Either way, no opinions matter. If Riot deems Teemo as outdated, they will force a rework. In my opinion, I think Teemo is basically impossible to be balanced through every elo, similar to my view on Yorick. A degree of rework may be required. Thank you for watching my video. If you guys want me to discuss a certain champion, be sure to leave it in the comments. The next video I am planning to go in depth with Garen, but it's not guaranteed just yet. Like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe for more knowledgeable content, and I'll see you guys in the next one.